What do you want in the next 10 years? What do you want in the next 10 years? Now, under this, what do you want in the next 10 years? That is the question. I want you to make a list of at least 50 items. Now, here's what I want you to do. I want you to just write as fast as you can. Don't give any much detailed thought to it, of what you want in the next 10 years. And just let your mind run free. Now, also remember this. This is not what you think you can get. This is what you want. If it all fell into place and you could have everything you wanted in the next 10 years, what would you take? If somebody promised you can have anything you want in the next 10 years, what do you want? I want you to approach it that way, because it's not important to think, what do I think I can get? I want you to now think about what you want in the next 10 years. So we're going to take a little time now for you to make that list of 50 items. And put them one under the other, not side by side, but one under the other, because we're going to do something with this list when you finish. One under the other. And abbreviate, wherever possible, so you can just put more items on the list. What do you want in the next 10 years? Everything from places to go, to investments to make, to education for your children, personal things, business things, everything. Now, some of these things need to be tomorrow, need to be this year, need to be next year, then 10 years on out there. Between now and the next 10 years, what would really do it for you? Everything you can think of. Skills you want to learn, languages, residences you want to acquire, a ranch in Montana, a cabin in the mountains. Everything you can think of, from small to large. A list of the places you want to visit, revisit, experiences you want to have. Fly the Concorde, bungee jump, something maybe you haven't done, but just put it on your list if it rings a bell. Write a song, write a book, write a poem. 10 years. Benevolence goals, like projects you want to support, money you want to be able to give. Star in a movie, play in a rock and roll band. What would give you the most incredible life the next 10 years? A new wardrobe, a new look, start a new family. Larry King. He has breakfast where I have breakfast at Nate and Al's. We've had a chance to talk a few times. He's starting a brand new family. I don't know how old he is next to God. He's getting pretty old, but it's unbelievable. Jerry Lewis, 72 or 73, and he's got a little girl? Danny's her name. Jerry Lewis, a little girl. Maybe that wouldn't do it for you, man. What would do it for you? What would give you the greatest satisfaction, pleasure, joy, live an unbelievable life? What would that list be the next 10 years? Habits you want to change, health you want to acquire. And remember, if you've been to my other seminars, right? A little revenge I talk about on your goal list. I had some of that when I first started doing these goals. A little revenge. People who said I couldn't do it. Couldn't wait to get my new car, drive it up on their lawn. Satisfaction. Budget finance used to harass me. I finally got the money put together, put it in small bills in a big briefcase. Walked into this guy's office one day, dumped this pile of money all over his desk, out of my briefcase. I said, count it. Turned around, walked out, never asked for a receipt. Someday you just got to bury somebody in the money. Satisfaction. David the king said, God prepares my table for me. What a scene. David said, God prepares my table for me. But that's not the end of the story. What's the rest of it? Got some scholars here. God prepares a table before me, what? In the presence of my enemies. See, you got to put that on your list someday. The New Translation reads, in their face. Isn't that an incredible scene? In the presence of my enemies. Let them look at this scene. Whatever it is, satisfaction. My Japanese friend, Toru Ikeda, right here, San Jose, years ago, put on his first list, a Caucasian gardener. I said, go Toro. So good. So what would do it for you? Upstairs maid, downstairs maid. Chauffeur, cook. A cook, you can't believe, wouldn't take that much to have a full-time cook, take care of everything so you can devote your time to other things, if that pleases you. You know, Mark Hughes, my friend's got this mansion and all this help, and that's not my style. Right? You drink a cup of coffee, you can't even set it down. Somebody comes, takes it away. That's too much help for me. I don't need that much help, but it suits Mark. So. But what would do it for you? Learn a new craft, develop a whole new career, greatly advance your present career. In the next 10 years, just keep making the list, as many things as you can think of. Little things, insignificant to someone else, important to you. One of my goals was to have a residence in each of the 4 seasons. Spring here, summer here, autumn here, winter here. If you could have whatever you wanted to make your life unbelievably unique in the next 10 years, what would you take? Somebody said, you can have anything you want in the next 10 years. What is it? But you can't have it if you can't think it, if you can't, describe it, if you can't put it on paper. The ancient script says what? To the believer, everything's possible. Remember now, some close at hand, some not far away, some on out there. This is over 10 years now, over 10 years. That's a big chunk of time. How many chunks of 10 do we have? About 10. 10 chunks of 10, that's about it. Of course, with what's happening in science and technology and nutrition, we may get that other 20, 30 years before long, 110, 20, 30. I read in Scripture back when they lived to be 800, 900 years old. I don't know how come I come in these generations where we get shortchanged. If I have a chance, I'm going to complain. How come they got 800, I got 80? That doesn't sound fair. But anyway, I may not have a chance to ask, but if I do get a chance, I'm going to ask. But in this brief life we have, we want to fill it up with as much progress and achievement as possible. Not just for ourselves, but to reach out and touch everyone we possibly can. Okay. Does anybody have 50 items yet? Okay, we're doing pretty good. Another couple of minutes now. Because you can put a lot more items after we do this workshop. You'll see where, you don't have to stop where I stop. If you're doing it and you've got plenty of time, you just go on and on. Keep coaching. Say, what about this? Someone says, oh yeah. And they start that. And you say, what about this? And you say, I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, I'd like some of that too. That's what the workshop is for, to stimulate your imagination. 10 years. It's amazing. See, kids by now have about 9 pages already full. Adults are something else. You got to squeeze this stuff out of adults. Kids will have on their list things you don't even know exist, right? Okay, put a little star there now, which means continue this later. You don't have to just be shortchanged on this list. I mean, this list can go on and on and on. And if you're working this workshop and you've got plenty of time, you just, give it plenty of time till everybody's pretty thoroughly, ready now with this list. But now here's what I want you to do with this list. I want you to go through the list now, one item at a time, write down the list, and I want you to give each item a 1, a 3, a 5, or a 10 by saying, that's about a 1-year goal, that's about a 3, that's about a 5, that's about a 10. I want you to look at each item, write down the list, and give it a 1, 3, 5, or 10. Look at each item and say, that's about a 1, that's about a 3, that's about a 5, that's about a 10. It doesn't have to be exact, just somewhere near. Or even if you just guess, I'm guessing, but that looks like about 3 years. This looks like about 5. This is within the next year. And this is 10. 1, 3, 5, 10. This is going to be so valuable. What's going to be valuable now is when you teach it. You'll learn even more when you teach it. 1, 3, 5, 10. Now remember, some goals are personal, some are family. Right? Here's a family goal. For the kids that aren't here, I'm going to set up a few things for them that I know they want. I want to help them accomplish. Then there's business goals, some recognition you may want. I could hear the brains working the way up here. This is good stuff. Also, if you're married, it's his goals, her goals, and their goals. Our goals, my goals, your goals, our goals. Also, if something's incredibly private, put it in code, so in case this list fell into someone's hands, they wouldn't be able to figure it out. What's a star with a circle around it? Well, never mind. Okay. Now, here's what I want you to do with this list. I want you to look at each item that you've numbered number 1, and I want you to pick out the 4 most important and identify them some way. Either make a new list of the 4 most important one-year goals, or circle them, or put a star or something beside it. What are your 4 most important one-year goals? Okay, now that you picked the 4 most important one-year goals, here's the next question. Why? Why are those 4 goals important to you? What are they going to do for you? What will they accomplish? Why did you pick those? Why? Why are those goals important? Just 3 or 4 sentences. If we don't have time to complete it, you can complete it later. If you have plenty of time doing this workshop, you just take the time. Why are those 4 goals important to you? Now here's another exercise. I want you to go through this list from 1, 3, 5, and 10, and I want you to count how many 1s, how many 3s, how many 5s, how many 10s, and then make a little tab list. I've got this many 1s, this many 3s, this many 5s, this many 10s. So go through and count them and make a list. A tab list of the 1, 3, 5, 10. Pretty well done? Okay, now I want somebody out here somewhere to volunteer to give me your list. How many 1s, 3s, 5s, and 10s? Right down here. How many 1s? 7. 3s? 5s? 12. 10s? How many had no 10-year goals? Isn't that, this guy had 18. Isn't that interesting? That means he did a lot of his thinking. How many 1s? Just 7 1s and 18 10s. That's interesting, because he was doing more thinking way on out. You were doing more current. How many 1s did you have? Isn't that fascinating? The kind of thinking you were doing and the kind of thinking he was doing. It's interesting. So now here's what you have to say to yourself. I need more 10-year goals. I'm not thinking out there enough. And then you need to say, hey, 1s, I need a lot more 1s, right? Because I can put a lot of little things on there, right? And keep checking them off every day, every day, every day. So this helps you to sort of get the idea that, you know, you're either thinking too much short term, which is fine to think short term, and you need to think long, 10s. And here's why you need some of those long range goals. When the early astronauts went to the moon, a fantastic accomplishment, some of them had incredible psychological problems when they got back. Why? The question was, now where do we go? I mean, when you've been to the moon, and a lot of them had psychological problems because, you know, they did the parades and all that stuff, but when the parades were over, now what? So here's what they learned to do with the later astronauts, because some of them, you know, drank too much and, you know, they had some problems. So here's what they learned to do later to make sure that the astronauts that came back from the moon had plenty more projects to go for after they came back from the moon. And this is what you want now, plenty more to go for when you've accomplished this, plenty more to go for, plenty more to go for. You should have seen my father's list in his 90s, right? He had a long enough list to live to be 150. What is that called? Plenty more to go for, plenty more to go for when this is accomplished, plenty more, plenty more. I'll never run out of objectives and purpose to go for the rest of my life. And that's what this little exercise is for. Incredible.
I think trying to find your passion is a little bit, maybe too strong a word. Greatly desiring to be extremely successful, I think probably is sufficient. But if you can find something you really love to do and can do it with great passion, I think that's fantastic. But I think being grateful probably is number one. If you've got a job, you got to be grateful. So this isn't the greatest job in the world, but even if it's a transitional job getting you where you want to go, you got to be grateful. You don't have to love your job or be passionate about your job, just passionate about staying steady, working hard, learning skills, doing this job so well that the next one will be even better, and taking such good care of this opportunity, another one will present itself. Sometimes the man says, well, if I had a good job, I'd really pour it on. But I've got this lousy job, so I just goof off. So that's not the attitude nor the philosophy. If you'd really pour it on, this one, even though it may not be the best job in the world, if it furnishes a living, you have to be grateful. If it takes care of you and your family, you got to have gratitude. Not necessarily passion, but gratitude. But I think if you have an extreme desire to wish to be successful, so you can accomplish all you wish to accomplish, be as generous as you'd like to be, be as strong as you'd like to be in terms of financial strength, involved in entrepreneurial projects that you can't do without, let's say, sizable money, so you go for that. To me, I think that's sufficient. I think if we say you have to find your passion, people find that a little bit confusing. Where would I find it, and what could I be passionate about? I guess you could start with saying, I'm passionate about providing unusual success for myself and for my family, so that my children will say in the years to come, we had the most incredible life together as a family. Then I think the key is to let what you want to accomplish, let that grow. Where at first this is as far as you can see, but if you'll do that, you'll say, wow, maybe I could multiply by 2, by 3, and expand my vision, accomplish a lot more. You have an enterprise. Maybe you could make it stronger and better and more far-reaching, and let that happen. It's difficult to figure it all out and then get that done. We just don't do that. We can figure out the next little part of our life that we can see, and then we can say, well, eventually I'd like to have, and let those dreams linger somewhere in your consciousness. I say make a list of all the things that would give you the most incredible life. Just make that list. What would do it for you over the next 10, 20 years? Places to go, things to see, people to meet, books to read, skills to learn, investments to make, being generous. Just make lists of all the things that you think would make for you a really fantastic life. And at first, don't worry about how to get it. Just let your mind run free and think what would really do it for you. And then just begin. And let those lists alter. Because sometimes you start for something and then you say, sure enough, I thought this was really going to be everything I wanted. Sure enough, this is really not it. Or I can see now, long before you are going to accomplish it, I'm investing too much money and time and effort. So you change. And anytime you want, you can tear up your whole list and start all over again. Some people say, I made the list so I have to accomplish it. And the answer is no, you don't. It's your life. It's your list. You can turn it upside down, right side up, scratch off some things, put some new things on, or start all over again. Don't let it become an obsession. Let it become an enticement. Better to be enticed than obsessed, or we might invest too much effort and time in something that's not going to turn out to be as great as we thought it would. The old prophet said, sometimes things that taste good in the mouth later turns bitter in the belly. We think, oh, this is it. Sure enough, it was a bit of an illusion. Don't cry for me, Argentina. Right? One of the lines is, they are illusions. They're not the solutions they promise to be. But that's a learning experience. And we can only be affected by what we see. Someone says, well, you shouldn't have devoted so much of your time and energy. But if that's what you could see, only that at the moment, we're going to do it, and we just learn as we go. We need a collection of experience to give us good data on what to do, what not to do. Sometimes you need more experience to make a wiser decision. If a person says, well, I've eaten junk food now for a week, but look how strong and healthy I am, see, that's a delusion. 1 week is not going to give you the right kind of information about how you feel, whether it's a good idea to continue or not. You need a lot more experience than that to decide whether or not it's good for you. I used this illustration once with the candle lit, talking about having enough experience to make wise decisions. And I said, would all of you agree that the fire will burn my finger? Let's say that I don't know that, but you're trying to teach me now. If you put your finger in the flame, it will burn your finger. Say, okay, I'm ready to try it. So I put my finger in the flame and take it out, fairly quickly, in and out, right in the flame and out. And I say, look, my finger's okay. Let me try it again. And I put my finger in the flame and take it right out. And I said, my finger's okay. Where did you get this idea that the flame would burn my finger? And they say, no, Mr. Rohn. You can't just go like this really quick and put your finger and take it right out of the flame to know that the flame will burn your finger. You've got to leave your finger in there just a little longer. Say, oh yes, then I need a little more experience to make a wise decision. Say, well, I've taken this cocaine and, I feel okay. But see, you don't know the end of that road. This is only the beginning when it seems to be okay. But you need more experience. Now, if you don't have any personal experience on cocaine, then you've got to go to someone who has and says, look, 20 years of my life was wasted. I finally turned it around. Like some of the old rock and rollers that have turned it around. Amazing. I was in Paris the other day, had 20,000 in my class. Also in town were the Rolling Stones, who rolled into Paris and stopped for a while with Mick Jagger and all the rest. These guys got through those treacherous days of drugs and alcohol, somehow made it. A lot of them didn't make it. Boy George said, I woke up one day and all my friends were dead. That's enough experience. So maybe if you haven't had enough, you're just getting started, but you better check out somebody that's been down that road for maybe 4 or 5 years, or 3 or 4 years, or 20, and make a judgment based on a lot more data than just trying something to say, hey, it seems to be okay.